Let me just remind the viewers that we here at Newzroom Afrika are going to start that broadcast very early. 5 a.m. is when we are going to kick things off. So if you don't want to miss a beat, this is the channel you want to come to. But let's then get into that conversation with the IEC to find out just how ready are they and what lessons have been learned out of the 2 days of special voting. And here to answer to some of those questions is the chairperson of the IEC, Mr. Mosotho Moepya. Good evening to you, sir, and thank you for your time. It's going to be a very, very long couple of days. So let's talk about what you perhaps see as key lessons learned with the 2 days of special voting, a number of teething problems, would you call them?
No, I would not generalize it by saying a number of teething problems. I think in an election, scale is very important.
Yeah.
And I think day one of a process such as this is generally one that gives you a sense of the little things that you need to pay more attention to, the blockages, the materials that staff sometimes may deviate from. These are things that you really have an opportunity to then deal with and deal with family. So if one has to look at the lessons we have learned yesterday and today, it's nothing out of the ordinary, honestly. It's a tough election, as you know. There have been some things that have happened that are not ordinary, and we are dealing with those. But generally, I think we're satisfied.
Yeah. That would come as a surprise to some people, chairperson, because in the Eastern Cape, that would have been the big talking point on Monday. A number of voting stations not opening.
Good.
Yes, the security, or should I say law enforcement, intervened, but today, our reporter telling us that at least one voting station in the King Sabata Dalindyebo municipality region not opening owing to things such as protests and what have you. You have presiding officers accosted in some instances, people wanting them to account on voting material, some of them being visited at home. Are these ordinary?
No, I think we must not glorify crime, you and I. I think we must condemn it. And we must leave those authorities that have the duty, the mandate in law to deal with that. Very clearly, if you ask the Commission about crime, we cannot help you. But if you ask the Commission about the work that the Commission does, we are quite happy to deal with. You will be aware, and I'm sure the viewers will be aware, we do not want any voting station not to remain open. It's not our plan. We want every one of our voting stations to be opened. We work hard to get to that point. And to the extent that people's constitutional rights compete, we think that everyone must observe that which, in the circumstances, is most important to do. I think at this time, voting truly is important.
Yeah.
If one does not feel they want to vote, I think it is important for them to respect the right of others. That's really the point we are making.
Yeah.
But to the extent that they insist, to the extent that they even want to commit crimes, it's now a job that gets to be beyond us, and we hand it over to the security establishments where we remain available to serve the voter.
Still on this point of individuals, at least in 2 of the cases in Mpumalanga, the CEO identifying political parties that interfered with voting material. Perhaps this is another moment for you to talk directly to political parties and their members. What's the message tonight?
We must condemn them. And I think from where you sit, I think it is very clear. These are the kind of things that are unacceptable. And we must condemn them for what they are. Parties and candidates know that we are conducting an election. They can hold us to account. It's very clear what they need to do to hold us to account. But to go to the point where they commit crimes, we have to deal with it.
But
and deal
maybe
with
they're
it
not clear, Chairperson. Maybe they're not clear as to what to do. Maybe their political leaders have not educated them enough. If they are aggrieved about something, what are the channels?
The channels is to deal with these things as either the violations of the code or criminal as they seem to be. And for those matters to be dealt in that manner. You can't be giving a ballot to somebody that's, trying to accost you to, say, commit a criminal offense with me or event with me. We will not do that. The point I'm making, Koli, is that we must resist, not just the commission, the public, political parties, civil society, everyone in general. We must condemn these things.
Yeah.
And we can't be alone in the commission that say we need to have a credible election. Every one of us must say South Africa cannot afford an election that cannot be free and fair. Oh. And this isolated incidents, we are not going to tolerate. Let's be clear about that. There is no room for us to tolerate them. There is no reason for us to tolerate them. And there is no reason for society, for other political parties for that matter, to tolerate them. We must condemn them. And that's where we are.
Voter education. A question was asked during that media briefing. That question has to do with whether or not the IEC has really gone the distance in educating people. And one matter that seems to be tripping up a lot of people, I listened to the radio in just the last few hours, that Section 24A seems to have tripped a number of citizens who are saying, yes, I moved provinces, but I wasn't aware that at least on the national ballot I would not be able to mark that vote. They are not allowed. How much of this education have you done so that people are aware of Section 24A?
It's always good to ask the question, when you speculate. Yeah. It's not a speculative question, this. The law was passed in April last year. It followed extensive consultation. The issue of Section 24A, let's be frank, it's an issue that comes from the last elections. We have spoken about this with yourselves in the media, with political parties, with civil society organizations. It surely can't be a new issue. It's not. We have it, and it's not just education, but we have extensively in every one of our press briefings, after registration, in the issues that we deal with when we engage with the media, with civil society, with everybody, but also on radio, in the print, and everywhere. I submit that if you say, could we have spent more money? And the CEO has answered you, says, given the envelope that we are satisfied that we have done what we needed to do. But to say that issue is new, let's be frank, it's not. It is 5 years old. It has been known at least for more than a year in the law, and we have spoken about it. I accept that it is a change that needed to be made. Parliament has made that, and it has consulted. But we have done our bit, Koli. We have indicated to South Africa that this is the arrangement. To the extent that some people may be adversely affected, of course, none of us say it's fine, But let me remind you what even the courts have said. The courts have said that an election is not just an issue where everyone casts their ballots and there is no control. It's not a box-ticking exercise. You've got to make proper arrangements to ensure that the vote that has been cast is indeed a vote that will matter and it'll be followed through properly. Yeah. To go and have an election where everybody casts the ballots, but the election cannot be free, it cannot be fair, it cannot be credible, will be an issue. And I don't think the issue of Section 24A gets anywhere close to raising those issues.
I suspect it might be too late now to even try and sensitize people about it or remind people about it, because I guess that talks to voter education. Then there is what Professor Moepya...
Can I say something before you close this issue?
Sure.
You remember on the day that the Section 24A applications were closing, what the Commission did? Would you remember that?
Please remind us.
On that afternoon, we did some extraordinary things. We had a briefing, if I'm not mistaken, but I know we were approached as the Commission to say, South Africans, between 4 and 5, there were more than 17,000 applications coming through a minute on our system. And we had to extend the time. And very clearly indicated to South Africa that this is the provision why we are increasing this, because it's new and all of that. So I'm really submitting to you that it cannot be, in truth, that we have not done enough to deal with Section 24A. That certainly cannot be.
The difference between voter education, which I would assume is where Section 24A falls under. Then there is ballot education.
Okay.
How much of that has been done? Because that's also very important. 3 ballot papers are going to be dealt with this year by voters. How much of that do you think you have done in order to educate the South African public what these ballots represent?
I'm telling you, whenever I listen to radio, whenever I watch television, which I don't have a lot of time to do, I do it just before I go to bed, just to catch up. I tell you, there is so much of the 3 ballots going on. There are so many platforms on social media and everywhere. We are dealing with that issue. I'm telling you, it's coming thick and fast through the media. But I accept that we have a change. Let me challenge you and say, 3 ballots are not new. In local government, we do that. I accept that in this instance, it's the first time, and we have taken measures. One of the measures we have taken is that outside of the voting station, just before you get in, you will actually find that on this occasion, we even have a poster, a huge poster, that has an indication of the 3 ballots that a voter would get, and the annotation that indicates how they should mark the ballot. In other words, how not to spoil that ballot. I think these are extraordinary measures we have taken on this occasion. We have not taken them in the past, but we realized that it would be necessary to do so, and we have done so.
Perhaps as a final question, tomorrow voting stations are going to open. Perhaps it is an important moment right now for anyone watching to know exactly what time will voting stations open, what time will voting stations close. What happens if you are still standing in the queue and it is time up for that station to close?
Good. Very good information. All voting stations tomorrow will open at 7. And they will close at 7 a.m. in the morning. And they'll close at 9, except in instances where there are people in the queue at 9. When this happens, there would be people who are managing the queue who would stand behind the last person in the queue at 9 to ensure that none of those people who are there at the closing time are disenfranchised. There may be instances where the Commission has experienced difficulties and there are people in the queue, and the Commission may take decisions to extend voting hours in a specific station, not generally, in a specific station. And the Commission gets to be seized with these matters on election day. All of those measures we are going to take. But the abiding message is this. Everyone, please, who has registered, is on the voters' roll for these elections, please come out and vote. We have prepared for you. Yeah. We haven't opened voting stations, or we will not open voting stations tomorrow just to go and serve 60% or 70% of the people. We have prepared for every one of the voters that is on our voters' roll to come and vote. There will be a ballot for them. We have enough manpower to service them, and we are urging them, actually, we are requesting them to come and do that which is a patriotic duty, to renew the mandate of those that they want to renew, to give others the mandate if they want to give others the mandate, and to let their votes speak for them in that respect.
I have very little time. I have to take a break.
Yes.
If you're able to squeeze this in less than a minute, I'll be happy. The questions around Commissioner Janet Love.
Yes.
They keep coming. Is that an uncomfortable moment for the IEC? How do you think this can be best dealt with?
It's not an appropriate thing. The best way to deal with it, the Act is clear, the Electoral Commission Act is clear. There is a process there. If anyone has an issue with a commissioner, they follow the process, they submit their concerns with the court, the Electoral Court, and the process takes over from there. It certainly can't be a matter that you deal with in a press briefing. It must be dealt with by a court.
Chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, Mosotho Moepya, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.